Welcome everyone. Great to see you. This is, I'm Mark Margulies. I am President of the Wharf District Council. Suzanne is somewhere on the beach elsewhere. And I don't even think she's calling in. Matthew, who is with me here, is our Vice President. We're going to do our best to do our Suzanne invitation.
She is inimitable.
Yeah, exactly.
You look just like her.
Yeah.
She's a much better dresser than I am.
We are going to open with a presentation by our friends from the Boston Police Department. Who's actually presenting or sharing?
Captain Martin.
Captain Martin, great. Thank you so much. Tell us what's been going on, Captain. We have somebody else. Sergeant.
Zach Crossan. He's a community service sergeant. He wasn't able to be here in person, but he's
Hey, I'm on the Zoom call, Cap.
Welcome, awesome. So, what's been going on lately in the district, please?
So again, nothing too eventful down the Wharf area, but we did have a few events here. So we had two commercial break-in and enterings. One was on March 16th at 75 State Street. It's business spaces. So these spaces were broken into sometime in the morning. Security came in the staff came in the next day. No forced entries in either doors, no damage. They just seen a few things missing. They seen an iPod missing and a couple packages that were moved. They waited a few weeks to report it because they didn't know if he misplaced it or moved it himself. He wasn't sure if anyone came in. They requested the video surveillance from the security team to verify the activity. 2 weeks later, they received the footage back and two people were actually in the building. So they were having issues with the door. They believe they left it open. Someone walked through the door and they still don't know if anything's missing. So we're just waiting to see if they actually were missing any items. Detectives are working on it. We're just working on that. But again, that was no forced entry, just leaving doors open and an opportunistic moment for whoever walked by. You have one other B&E to the gym, which was at 137 Pearl Street. So again, they're stating there's no signs of forced entry. This was on the 16th. We believe this was, on the backside of Broad Street. We think it was just St. Patrick's crowd drunk from the bars. So two people walked into the gym and walked around. Nothing was stolen, nothing was damaged. The owner of the gym got an alert on his phone. He started yelling at him through the cameras to get out the gym, and they left. So again, nothing was damaged, nothing was broken, nothing was stolen. There was no forced entry. They believe they left the door open, and two drunk kids likely walked in.
Everybody got drunk on St. Patty's Day.
Not too many. The only other thing was a domestic. A few other things: a domestic assault. Again, nothing. No one from the Wharf area. Just people driving in a vehicle, and they happen to stop in the Wharf area. Again, a suspect and his girlfriend got in an argument. He physically assaulted her, punched her in the face a few times, threw some of her items, her personal belongings out of the vehicle, dropped her off, and left the scene. Officers were able to link up with the victim. They found the suspect, interviewed everybody, and ultimately he was placed under arrest for domestic battery. But again, it was no one from the Wharf. It was just they happened to stop in the Wharf when it took place. Same thing here. There was two females reported they were kidnapped. So they were texting their friend that, basically, I need help. I was kidnapped, and gave a location that they were outside of Sissy K's. Officers arrived, found the female waiting in line, spoke to her friend. You won't get too deep in this one, so it's a little weird, a little creepy, but they met up with the guy, offered some money for likely services type deal. And he started driving back towards the Sissy K's and drove crazy on his way there. They called up saying he was being kidnapped. He stopped at Sissy K's, went inside. They still wanted to press charges. He was ultimately arrested for not letting him out of the vehicle, and he will kidnap him. We'll see where that goes. However, again, it was not anyone from the Wharf area. It was just people driving through and stopping as we got here. And then lastly, there was just phone threats to the general number at the Intercontinental Hotel. Trying to identify the individual who did so. Someone called the Intercontinental Hotel, the general hotline, the general number, excuse me. Started reporting that they want to come down and shoot any black security guard that's down there, and hung up. The security guard who reported it was the only black security guard who worked there. He believes it was an employee who was recently terminated, who they had issues with, and who was drunk on site. The police had to remove him, so they believe it was him. Officers are working that. It doesn't seem credible. It seems like a disgruntled employee, if anything, but we should have that resolved soon. Aside from that, that is all you have going on down the Wharf district. So you're all in great shape as usual. So at this point, I'll leave it open for you all. If you have any questions of Frank and myself, if you have any issues you want to address, anything we need to help out with.
No hot or cold, naked people running out of the sauna?
What's it? I've had, there's been no issues I know of with the saunas. Do you use them or?
I haven't been up there, but
There are some people in this room.
yeah.
You know, you
Right.
have, yeah, I've been there. Well, you have the VFD there every day, every hour they're open.
Oh, really?
Making sure you're
And the
safe.
car parked to the side is the fire department, because there's no complaint,
Huh?
there's no complaint.
My goodness.
How is it, man? Nice.
It's nice. Yeah, they're only open until the end of this month, so you gotta get in soon if you wanna go.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought there'd be more issues there. Honestly, I thought people would be lingering around and causing issues, but I've heard no
Well, they,
problems.
they can't drink there, right?
No.
It's very relaxing, it's very subdued. Yeah.
I had sort of a general question, and maybe it's too soon to comment on this, but the number of empty storefronts and empty offices there are in the area west of the Greenway, sometimes referred to as the financial district. Has that, and more people working via remote instead of going into work, in some ways, I know that smaller businesses have suffered as a result of that, some of the sandwich shops and, you know, smaller businesses. But have you seen any impact on, I don't know, folks breaking into not abandoned buildings, but, you know, closed buildings or buildings that have not been occupied in a while? Are you seeing anything of that nature?
Well, the past couple of months, I recall maybe a couple places of, someone did enter, no damage. I believe one or two offhand. I'd have to look it up, but it's not a trend or pattern I see. It's not a major issue. The major issue is that the storefronts are vacant, you know, that's more of the issue, but, to answer your question, no, it's not a pattern or a trend or anything of people breaking into empty stores or squatting in there doing anything like that.
Right.
A somewhat related question, you know, we have this major effort that we've been going through lately to try to influence the design of State Street, which is currently has the bike lane and a whole bunch of parked cars all over the place. Has the police department, does the police department have a view about either the traffic or other implications about the pilot project on State Street or the planned renovation? Or do you have to stay out of that conversation?
So that's up to City Hall to, you know,
Yes.
establish the bike lanes.
Yes.
I can tell you that from going to a lot of these meetings, all these meetings, the most consistent complaint I get is about bike lanes from everybody across all over downtown Boston. The issues I hear is obviously the congestion. You know, there's not a lot of bikes in these lanes, and as a result of the lanes, traffic's being backed up.
Yep.
Again, with hundreds or thousands of cars idling in traffic for hours at a time, it's probably create more pollution than it would to be moving and driving, right? So these are the complaints I often get.
Right. Is there any data that would substantiate what you and we know to be the case, as you just stated?
I'm sure it's out. I don't have any data personally. I'm sure there's data someone could come up with and let us know if that's
I'm
accurate.
struggling with that.
Yeah.
If you could think of, somebody said, oh, go ahead.
Just what data on what again? I might have the insight.
Well, the question is there data on the, let's just call it the traffic implications, but there might be other implications of what happens when you reduce the number of traffic lanes to put in a bike lane.
No, I mean, we said it on that meeting last week, when, you know, Councilor Flynn voiced his objections to this project, and we heard,
Yep.
the Chief of Streets talk about that, and there was some data put out. I don't have any data personally to either for or against, or, you know, argue back what they put out. So no, I don't have anything, fortunately.
One of the data sets that we are seeking, and that has not been put forth from the project planners, is regarding the impact of traffic backups onto Surface Road and Atlantic Avenue, that are resulting from the squeezing in of every type of traffic that there is onto State Street. And we see that, I see it walking to and from work every single day. You can find a video of it on our website.
Yeah.
And we have asked specifically of BTD to collect and share with us that type of data, but it is not forthcoming.
Yeah. The other stuff that's going on, just so, again, we're asking. You could tell us that this kind of question puts you in an untenable position and we'll back off, right? But what we're trying to we're trying to understand how to be a constructive part of this dialogue. So we know that the traffic is backing up from it. There's data on the accidents to pedestrians, to bicyclists and automobiles on State Street. But there isn't, and that's on the website, but you can't separate it from before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic.
So we might be able, well, Zach, take note of that from that time frame. We could put that out to ITS and see if they could
That'd be great.
pull any, vehicular accidents with bikes and pedestrians during those timeframes. I'm sure they could. I know on our ITS system, bike accidents is an actual measurable
Sure.
metric. So I don't know how far back that metric goes when they added that
Well,
box.
we just haven't been able to segment it by time, Zach. So the thing is that, they're making all of these, BTD is making all these statements that bike lanes make it safer. So we've had that pilot bike lane since.
At least 4 years.
Yeah, right. And so if it is safer, that data should show up. If it's the same, and it has to be relative to because during the pandemic, there wasn't anything going on, right? So anyway, so that's one thing. Secondly, there is a proposal to close down half of Atlantic Ave for the construction going on at the building next to Intercontinental. It would be nice to have some sort of someone else other than us to say that that's a scary thing in terms of traffic. I know the BTD is in charge of it and supposedly they take care of all that stuff, but they don't seem to care. And then there is a proposal to take out one of the lanes of East India, is it? For the double deckers?
Oh, no, it's actually, well, maybe, I don't know.
No, it's the state, yeah, it's the stage, the block State Street between.
State Street on the Greenway between Atlantic Avenue and Surface Road.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so.
To make it a stand,
Well,
not just
what's actually happened there? Sorry, I'm Chris Crompton, Old Town Trolley Tours. There seems right now to be, and I'm not sure if there's been a resolution, a bit of a confusion between BTD and BPD. One of the double-decker bus companies, Historic Boston Tours, which are branded as big bus tours, they were granted a staging area last season on Charles Street South near Park Plaza. They petitioned the city to ask for a location to stage down somewhere near the waterfront, and BTD allocated them the area on State Street, on the Greenway, right in between Atlantic Avenue and Surface Road. That area. So what happened, and this is to do with the bike lanes. No buses or anything were allowed to stop on that area of State Street, and it's still got the lines on the road there. We as Old Town Trolley, we used to have a stop that was a registered stop on State Street just after the intersection. When the bike lanes were put in April of 2020, there was no notice, nobody knew about them. We literally returned, well, we were shut down during the pandemic, but we literally turned up one day and the bike lane was there, and our sign, there was a sign that had been approved by the police commissioner and city had just been taken down. So we went to the city and said, hey, what's going on? You've taken our stop away. They said, oh, we're going to move it back to the area on the Greenway. So the city, this is the city, they installed the sign there and said you can stop there. So we started using that area, and it was a shared stop, so the other operators were using it as well. Then the Greenway Conservancy didn't want buses or trolleys stopping there, so they went to the city and said, please can you remove the sign? The city said yes, okay, so last year they removed the sign, so nobody could stop there. When Historic Boston Tours said they want to be down at the waterfront, they went to the city said, oh yes, you can have this area. So the city, allegedly, they went to the Greenway Conservancy and requested that we want to do this. Allegedly, the Greenway Conservancy said, yes, okay. The city then put up the signs saying Historic Boston Tours can now stage there. However, there's an email chain from the TD with ourselves and Captain Goggin of the Hackney Division, which license fees, and Captain Goggin says, no, that's not only the police commissioner, and he's absolutely correct in saying only the police commissioner can license a stand or give approval for a stand. You know, the Hackney regulations they're long and laborious, but they're very, very clear. And they specifically say the police commissioner has to give his permission. Captain Goggin said the police commissioner has not approved this. So we've been trying to find out, is this good or not? Because the sign is still there. And it looks like, I'm assuming if the city put the sign up without consulting with BPD. And now, of course, Captain Goggin's aware of it, but I don't know if that means the sign is going to stay there, or if Historic Boston Tours are going to have to go back to Charles Street. It's all up in the
And
air.
what would that mean for you guys?
I mean, for us, it doesn't make much difference to be honest. If they want to stop there, they can stop there. But what's happening is they've now got two staging areas, which again is not permitted. So the city, TD and BPD need to decide which one it is. It's either Charles Street South or State Street. If it's a State Street, I know the Greenway Conservancy are not going to be happy to have idling double-deckers there, right next to where all the merchants are. That was their whole issue in the first place, about moving the buses out there.
So why don't I'm gonna wake you up with Frank before we leave, and you could email, because there's a lot of information you just give us.
Sorry.
But you can email.
You can get that whole thing on the.
Sorry about that, but it's a saga that's been going
No,
on.
I'm tracking, I see it's a pain, so what we'll do is
Thank you.
you can reach out to Frank later and just give us the locations.
Sure.
We already have the backstory locations, we'll reach out to Captain Goggin ourselves.
Yeah.
And we'll just get the information we're looking to, it sounds like the city, again, wasn't on the same page with the BPD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll find out the question if they're gonna change it for. Well,
Yeah, I mean, we just want to know which one it is, and I'm sure the Greenway Conservancy would. And it does kind of link back because, yes, all this came about because the city just turned up one day, put the bike lanes in on State Street without any consultant, public process or anything. They just like.
It was
Now-
hot, mostly, and then on
So-
the day we
So the other part of it is, it just seems like. And you may feel differently, but it seems to me that if we're talking about difficulty on State Street,
Oh, it's going to be horrible.
and you're talking about adding double-decker buses there too.
Well, the problem is the double-decker buses, they come up Atlantic Avenue, and the double-decker buses are longer. So the trolleys, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, but the vehicles we use are specifically built for Boston with a very short wheelbase, so they can make these turns. The double-deckers are 40 feet long that are built, they can't make those same turns. They cannot make that turn. They come up Atlantic Avenue, they try and make that left-hand turn to park there. And the only way you can do it is you end up with half your back end hanging out on State Street, blocking a lane there. And you get that congestion, and if there's one already there and you try and pull another one in, now the whole intersection of State and Atlantic is shut down. I understand it, I get it, but it's just not a practical location. We actually suggested to the city to put them one block down from City View, where they could come up Atlantic Avenue and just pull in and pull out, and there'd be no congestion. But for whatever reason, the city didn't want to entertain that.
What do they say to you? Did they say no, or they said get back to you and they didn't circle back to it, or?
They either ignore us or they say no. It's usually one of those two. It's kind of 50-50.
So I would like to suggest that Wharf District Council and its members are keenly interested in being a part of the conversation about where large buses are going to be staged, because it's an important part of our community. And we would ask that the chief, or this other gentleman's name,
Captain Goggin.
somehow include us in that conversation with the people who are going to operate it, like every other business that happens in the district, so that we can have a conversation about the place we live.
And I'll link you up, I said, we'll link you up with Captain Gognan over at Hackney. He could be able, we'll get you some answers, but he'll be able to answer this question for you as well. And he'll might be able to enlighten you on whatever issues, if any, they're having with City Hall. Like, they might not even know this is a problem. City Hall might have just moved this, and they never knew any different until you bring it to their attention.
This came from BTD, not I think Captain Governor was as surprised as anyone else, because
So it sounds like.
he came up to me, he said, that's not been approved, there is no staging there. So I sent him a photo of the sign. And I think he was as surprised as everyone else.
Was there any follow-up with that, or did you?
No, no.
Okay.
Ciara, I don't know if you can hear, I know that you're on mute, and but if you are able to hear us, and there's a way for you to help us coordinate this discussion as well, that would be great.
Hi, yeah, I actually was just gonna say in the chat, if you want to send me an email with some more details, I can help get connected with BTD as well.
Yes.
You can either go directly to Ciara or through us, whichever.
Yeah, I'll send my email in the chat just so you can pass it along.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
So we won't have the chat, but
Yeah.
Before the officers leave, does anybody else on Zoom have questions for District A1 officers?
it's not great.
Have a email
Yep.
if needed, anything
Yeah.
comes up, okay?
Thank you. And this is a real opportunity for us to engage in a way other than just listening to what a great job you're doing about keeping us safe. So
Absolutely.
we appreciate that.
No, we'll definitely follow up and follow up if you have more questions on that. We'll link you up with whoever we need to get some answers.
Great. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Everyone have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So we are going to hear now from my old buddy from way back in his future life, Mike Nichols, who's president of the Downtown Business Improvement District, and you have a presentation that you should share, right? See if I can bring that up here.
I think it's always more fun to talk with visuals. It's nice to see some familiar faces as this is coming up. I'm Michael Nichols, I'm the president of the Downtown Bid, but many moons ago, I was the chief of staff at the Rose Kennedy Greenway for many years, and so was the representative that most came to these meetings around the time of the Janet Ethelman net, soaring over your neighborhood, delighting audiences everywhere. So a formative part of my life and work. And
I know United, right?
no, that would have probably been it then, so.
Back before.
Never.
It must have been, yes, okay, sorry.
But it was Greenway and then city and state government before that, so I'm a lawyer by background, but with city government, state government, and now about 11 years in nonprofit service. And I really enjoy this work, so I'm gonna get to tell you a little bit about it today. What the bid does, which people have notions of, and I'll kind of speed through that, and a little bit of sort of what's coming up. Just hope to move this. There we go. bids are these very quirky things that have emerged in the United States and around the world in recent years. And like park nonprofits, like the Greenway Conservancy or my last job at the Esplanade Association, you know, I think they are an outgrowth of city has competing demands on its time and resources, especially its resources. And so the private sector has sort of risen in a number of areas to try and bridge the gap between what we aspire to have out of our public assets and what government is able to, or you know, is able to fund and support. And so the bid is 100% fully funded and supported by the commercial property owners of the geographic district that we represent. And I'll talk a little bit about some, like, the roles in a moment. But our funding is, we have a $7 million budget, again, 100% provided by the property owners within our area. Interestingly, like many bids in the country, our budget is indexed to the value of the buildings, which was a really terrific thing the last 12 years and not such a terrific thing right now. So for the first time in our history, we had a reduction in our revenue last year of about 1% from the value of the buildings. As all of you know from your personal home ownership, that there's about a 1.5 year lag between the value and when it hits. And so it's only perhaps going to get worse for a few years for us, as we are all living an environment right now where buildings are worth less and selling for less than they did in the past. And so that is one of the unique things about our organization. We don't do private fundraising, either personal, or we've just started to do a little bit of grant fundraising to support some of the events and activities that we do.
You're all in commercial buildings.
We and non-owner occupied, non-condo, so rental apartments do pay into our form. This is our district. I tend to say it's all of downtown Crossing, most of the financial district, and about half of Government Center and half of the theater district. Our borders, I think 12 years ago, were defined to exclude assets where there was already a sort of a nonprofit funding stream. So we go up to, but don't include Boston Common, up to, but don't include the Rose Kennedy Greenway and Post Office Square Park, up to, but don't include City Hall Plaza, and up to, but don't include Chinatown. And so Essex Street, Tremont Street, State/Port, and mostly along Congress Street are basically the borders of our district. Those are fixed, so I don't get to change them or decide unless we went out and did a revote of property owners within an area. The owners of these buildings have voted themselves into this organization, and under state law have to continue to vote every 5 years to stay in this model. We were the first in Boston. Now there are 3. In my last job, or 2 jobs ago, I should say, I helped to establish the Rose Kennedy Greenway bid in partnership with A Better City and the city and state. That was the 2nd bid in Boston. Now the 3rd is around the Newmarket area, in that industrial area. But the one that I lead today is basically the most traditional style of bid, where it's in a commercial area and it's helping to support a decidedly commercial set of buildings to realize benefits that I'll talk a little about. This is one other look of the district overlaid on a map of the city there. So I'll run through sort of the high level of what we do. Every bid in the country will start with this. They almost teach you this in bid camp. There isn't one, but like they beat it into your head. Clean, safe, and welcome. If you don't have a neighborhood that isn't clean, safe, or welcoming, you don't have a neighborhood. So those are sort of the core functions of a bid, and I think everything else ends up somewhat optional additions that many bids will pursue based on the size of the budget and the resources available. Clean, we are the primary entity that removes trash, snow, and graffiti throughout the downtown. Recycling as well. We're cleaning and power washing and generally maintaining the streets and sidewalks within the entire 100 block area. You all living here have a better understanding of downtown than some groups that I talk to. So that I could go on a long rant about sort of the partisan political issues of today that are demonizing downtowns and that they're dirty, lawless hellholes. Unless you happen to live or work here, and then you tend to find really not so bad. You know, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I think you can walk through any part of this district and it is among, if not the cleanest place in Boston. We have 40 ambassadors, one of which is pictured here on this slide, who hand clean this neighborhood 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, throughout the course of the entire year. It's a really terrific program that we take a lot of pride in. And one of the things I take the most pride in is walking down a street on our district's edge. So take Essex Street, for example, on the edge of Chinatown. And if you look on the side of the street that the bid maintains versus the side of the street you don't, you see a stark difference. And that gives me a lot of personal pride in the sort of role that this organization plays. We're also engaged in safety services in partnership with Sergeant Cross and Captain Martin and others. So, you know, we are partnering with the police and supporting their efforts, including we fund a camera program for now.
Please mute. Thank you.
So many, if not most, of the police cameras that are available to police in downtown Boston have been funded by the bid in support of our partners in the police department. We engage with social service providers to try and access services for those in need, be they mental health or homelessness or other challenges in the downtown, and continue to try and be supportive of all the great work that the police department is doing relative to, you know, solving and addressing crime and other quality of life issues kind of in and through the downtown. You know, we're also doing simple street and sidewalk maintenance work. So like we're patching, you know, brick that's out of place in areas of the downtown, albeit the generally terrible state of the streets and sidewalks, and particularly downtown crossing, has been a responsibility of the city for quite some time, and we are continuing to work with them on a major street renovation project that has been 8 or 10 years in the making, and we hope to break ground at some point in the next 5 years, which is the timeline that keeps sliding. But we're certainly very hopeful that you'll see some benefits there from our partnership.
Where's the trade-off in planning and operations between the city and what you're doing?
Yeah, at its very core, bids are meant to be supplemental over and above a baseline area of service provided by the city. So it is not meant to have the private sector replace the city and the commitment of a city to its neighborhood, but actually to layer on top of that. There's a tension there where sometimes it goes on both sides of the line. I think we have an existing MOU with the city that I think is probably fairly dormant and could be looked at again to ensure that the city is upholding its end of the bargain. In the same way that I think we're very much upholding ours and then some. But we have a really good partnership with the city, each mayor that's come through in recent time. And there's a lot of value I think they put on the bid model. The city recently put out a report about revitalizing the city after the pandemic that said one of their core strategies is they believe there should be more bids in Boston. New York City is a quilt of like 54, 55 different bids. You walk from neighborhood to neighborhood and you will change which bid you're in every 5 seconds. My telltale sign for you, anytime you're traveling the world and especially in a city center, is look at the trash cans. Because the trash cans very often contain the branding, not of the city, but of the bid that helps maintain that area. Times Square Alliance and the Fifth Avenue bid near the Saks there, and Madison Square Park bid, anywhere you go in New York City, there's a group like ours that's helping to take care of that area on behalf of and in partnership with the city. Finally, we're offering welcoming services, trying to engage tourists and provide a welcoming face on the downtown. Plantings, holiday lights, general beautification, handing out maps to brochures, and maps and brochures to tourists as they engage in the downtown. We do a lot in the area of programming, not unlike what the Greenway Conservancy and others does, helping to produce or host a wide variety of events and activities through the downtown, including what we hope will be a couple of championship parades this spring with the Bruins and Celtics. I said that this time last year and I was wrong. It's my hope that perhaps we'll be partnering to host those events in the coming time. We have a landscape, an urban planner, and as well as a researcher that help to support sort of the activation of the public realm and land use. So anybody that is looking to use a storefront, establish a new business, build a new building, renovate a building, come through our organization. Very typically, the city will route them to us first to sort of vet those proposals and help them understand the neighborhood and the stakeholders and what it means to do business in downtown. But we also have installed and maintained wayfinding signs throughout the neighborhood and generally are researching and supporting you know, those who are looking to kind of do business, live or work downtown. One new area of emphasis for me coming into the role about 1.5 years ago was economic development. It's not something our organization ever did directly, but as the conversation just began about empty storefronts, it was really something that I think has become, in some ways, an overwhelming challenge for our members. And so the bid scaled a new operation last year. We called it Level Up Downtown. We've invested $2 million over a multi-year period to seek to eradicate vacant storefronts by actually going out and trying to find compelling, interesting, modern businesses of interest to the residents, workers, and visitors of this neighborhood today, to fill our vacant storefronts. We had 95 vacant storefronts a year ago and we have 70 today. We are going in the right direction downtown. Nearly every single vacancy on Washington Street is gone. There's maybe 2 legacy large format vacancies that remain, the old Forever 21 and the old Barnes and Noble's bookstore. Other than those very large format vacancies, nearly every other vacancy that existed a year ago on that stretch is gone. And so we feel like we're going in the right direction. We're making progress. We've been very well supported by the city's space program, which identified $9 million in federal funds to make grants to small businesses looking to open new storefronts. And so we've been able to load in 2 businesses through that program, and I expect there to be another half a dozen or so in the next couple of months. And so that program is actually could be anywhere in the city. So if you have vacancy in the Wharf district as well, it's a program that you can certainly avail of if you're have heard of businesses interested in opening downtown. We've also done pop-ups, and we're just trying to basically lessen the barrier to entry in the market for businesses that are interested in operating within our borders. I won't dwell on visitor services. I think many of you know that, the downtown, including the Wharf area, plays a very important role in tourism. And we try to be very good partners to hotels, restaurants, theaters, historic sites, event producers, and others that are seeking to support, the country and the world as they visit downtown Boston. Marketing branding, we run campaigns to help brand and support the downtown. This was one that I enjoy that's out there right now, trying to convince people ever so subtly that they would have a better lunch if they came downtown than stayed at their suburban home, where they're eating the leftover sandwich from yesterday. Ever so subtly trying to convince people that there are reasons to be here if you have a choice to make, right? If you have an office, a desk that's maybe vacant Mondays and Fridays and more often. I think, no one in the country has unlocked the formula to convince office workers back downtown 4 to 5 days a week. But we'll try with billboards and any other effort that we imagine could help connect people with this place and then certainly appeal to other audiences as well. We are a member organization, so we do try to address the specific needs of our members. If a member business shows up in the morning and somebody's graffitied or broken out a window or someone's sleeping on their door in their doorway, we activate various parts of our organization to address those challenges. And so every single commercial property in the bid, even if they're a non-paying member like a nonprofit or a condo building, we consider a member and we extend that membership to the tenant businesses, both in the office environment and those on the first floor experience. And it is very often that we are their first call for sort of non-police matters, non-BFD and non-EMS matters within the bid to help them address a challenge. Some of you may have heard the story a couple weeks ago of like the window that blew out of the Home Goods. I happened to be 20 feet from it when it happened, along with our director of operations. So the bid's response time was 5 seconds that day. We then radioed our ambassadors within about a minute or 2. They were there cleaning up the glass, creating a perimeter for when the police and fire departments showed up to assess the situation, where of course we give way to them conduct the work that they do. But that's maybe not the always usual response time, but that we pride ourselves on being eyes and ears for the neighborhood, a very thoughtful partner in making sure that it functions well. We this year, for the first time, made a major new foray into public. Coming from my roots at the Rose Kennedy Greenway, I take a lot of pride in the power of potentially using public art as a method to solve a number of the challenges I think we face right now in downtown. Giving people a reason to be here, having a positive experience once here, having a memorable experience once here, connecting with this place. And for us, where, I think it's people stick to their habits, maybe you all as well stick to your typical habits. We wanted to kind of jar that loose, especially in the winter time when it is the most difficult to imagine walking around anywhere in a cold weather environment, by giving people a linear walking art experience through the downtown in a relatively fast timeline from September through when we started this in December, January. We were able to identify 16 sites for public art projects that remain on view today, free and open to the public. Partnered with 3 Canadian curatorial partners, all based on Quebec province, Canada, to encourage Bostonians and our visitors to explore the city in the winter with programming. I think we might be the worst cold weather city in North America relative to programming, in part because I don't think we've given people enough to do. And so the saunas on the Greenway, or the art that we've done here, and snow ports and art markets and ice skating rinks, it's all going in the right direction. But I think we've started ourselves a bit farther back than the Buffaloes, New York Cities, Torontos, Montreals, and others. And so We took our whack at it this year, you know, with Winteractive. You see the viral sensation of the downtown clowns here. That I feel like for the last 3 months, I've done nothing but talk about clowns, which is not somewhere I thought I'd be in my career, especially as a lawyer, but here we are. You know, our goals really, as I mentioned, were to drive destination-worthy visitorship to the area, including we partnered with our hotel community to try and understand that, and many of you may know these stats, certainly those of you that I know here work in tourism. You know, our hotels run about 90 to 95% full in Boston, spring, summer, fall. And that drops into something like the 60s, January, February, March. We have not marketed Boston as the cold weather city it is. We don't have the programming. We don't give people the reasons to come here, especially in the public realm. There are phenomenal things happening in the museums, certainly with our tour groups, with theaters, right? There are things to do in our historic sites, but our public realm goes largely dark 3 months a year, maybe even longer. So we heard that from our hotels that are trying to provide something that would make people actually consider a trip to Boston, or what we heard happen this year a bunch. People came to Boston, didn't realize this was here, and then tacked on a day to their trip to explore Winteractive, which is what we heard from our hotels. So we've really kind of appreciated the success that this has turned into. There's some estimates that would say that we've had 250,000 visitors to the individual artworks over this last 2 months, and we have 1 month left to go. We have 40 to 50,000 more people visit on New Year's Eve this year, with first night being on City Hall Plaza, and with Echoes the Whale being in a prominent plaza downtown. There's been 135 news articles that have hit all 4 time zones in continental America so far, with something like an estimated 315 million in reach, largely supported by the downtown clowns. And it's been wonderful to see this reaction and to have people have a positive reason to come downtown. You know, I think my favorite of all the articles was the Boston Business Journal suggesting that we applaud this initiative as exactly the kind of irreverent and experimental steps the city and its business leaders ought to be taking to bring people back downtown, right? Like, we can't necessarily, with downtown and our legacy building stock, compete with Back Bay, Seaport, Assembly Row, Fenway, these other in-city and out-of-city places that have emerged over the last 5 and 10 years. I don't think copying them is the formula for downtown. It is historically our mid-market shopping district. It is historically the densest place within the region for office jobs. We should lean into the fact that we have those strengths. It is the single place where tourists first come when they visit Boston. Walking the Freedom Trail, hopping on, you know, one of the many tours that move through the downtown, or being greeted by someone in 300-year-old clothing to walk them through the downtown. That's where people come today. We should lean into that, but provide something unexpected, memorable, different, and interesting. It doesn't have to necessarily be cute murals on a wall that's super family friendly and maybe not that memorable. There's a place for some of that work, but I think we unlocked with Winteractive. You could have stuff that's weird, unsettling, a little creepy, a little dark, but it was memorable. And it changed people's day and gave people a reason to walk a different path to work or to visit our downtown. And so I've had the experience over and over for the last 2 months where I've been standing near one of the artworks and I ask somebody where they're visiting from. And I usually get an answer like, well, I don't win from, but I'm not visiting. I say, okay, well, what brought you downtown today? And they say, are you kidding? The clowns and the whale. And so they don't even realize, right, that someone who lives in the burbs, who lives just outside the city, who made an elective trip to downtown to see the art and then spend money in the restaurants, the shops, and so on, paying for parking, whatever the case may be, they're a visitor. And we're certainly tracking them. And so we know that this has had a positive impact on the downtown these last 2 months. It's a formula that I think we've unlocked for ourselves and will continue all seasons of the year going forward. But I think Winteractive certainly itself is here to stay. And so my last slide is just, you know, sort of a little bit on what's up next. You know, we are focused on sort of driving compelling program into the downtown, you know, not just in arts and culture, but really anything that would bring audiences together to spend time and spend money in the downtown, to make it safer. I think each area that has a plaza with live music or food or entertainment or activity gets safer and more interesting by virtue of public programming. A really terrific Cinco de Mayo event that we debuted last year in partnership with the Mexican consulate. They were really excited to bring their performers and food and other things to downtown. So there'll be a lot of great things. Fleet Week is back this year, overlapping with Harbor Fest. And so for those of you that don't need camp for July 4th week, I think we'll have a lot of really fun programming to see there, including sailors in uniform, which appeals to many, walking through the
shifts.
Call shifts will be 2026, so there's some
Yeah.
really great planning underway for that. But you could expect to see more art this week, this year, a return of Winter Active next winter. We'll continue to work on filling retail vacancies, supporting our partners at BPD and others in addressing, crime and social challenges in the downtown. We are starting to work with the city and BTD on a pilot where the bid could maybe help regulate or manage pedestrian zone access in partnership with the police and other, emergency personnel where they need to continue to have sort of their unfettered access. But the pedestrian zone is a remarkable asset that we have in the middle of our city that has never had the infrastructure or management from the city to serve its actual purpose. And so there's a belief that that could be one of the keys to unlocking the downtown streets renovation project, is to understand how access could be better managed within the pedestrian zone. And so we are just at the very beginning stages of designing a pilot initiative to address that problem. And then finally, I think there's zoning and other policy changes expected ahead from the planned downtown effort that I know the Wharf District was listening in on and supporting. And so we're eager to have that conversation with the city. So that answer any questions?
Mike, is your bid involved in the conversation about traffic and bike lanes and that thing, because we're keenly interested.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I live in the city. I've experienced, I think, much of what you all have on that measure. I'm also, I think, despite being a lawyer by background, in my 11th or 12th year doing work like this, I probably would also use terms like urbanist, and now increasingly sort of understand some of these trends. And I will say, I understand how they don't satisfy a lot of folks, and I'll put my biases out there. I am a car commuter to work mostly, probably a walker second and a biker distant third. Not something I
need to do them all.
But these days, I think, right, my last ride on a bike might have been, on vacation 3 years ago, but something that I understand. There is unquestionably a trend towards the elimination of car lanes or bike lanes and other uses that I think is going to continue in the city, throughout the city, in the downtown, and in every residential neighborhood. I just want to say that from my understanding of what other cities are doing in America, and especially the trends that are coming out of Europe that I think are influencing us. Paris, which I think many of us would romanticize as one of the best cities in the world, is probably the model that I believe this administration is looking at. Paris is removing hundreds of miles of lanes of car traffic and replacing them with public plazas, with bike lanes, with parks, and are very, very aggressively, even more so than I think what we feel here in Boston, are accomplishing what's called mode shift, trying to pull people, frustrating, and I would use these words. I think the goal is to so frustrate vehicle users' experience as to move them into a different mode of transportation, or to move them out of the decision to drive at all.
For the city.
And or the city itself. Paris, I think, is probably the worldwide leader in this effort right now for environmental reasons, especially.
They also have a really good public transit system.
Absolutely. I am mostly, I think, presenting the tea leaves that I am reading, right? And I believe that our city and others like it, New York City among them, are and the people that lead groups like mine around the country who are talking about this issue, that's the trend. And so I would tell you today that I understand your frustration. I listened to just about every meeting of the State Street conversation the other day. It is like every meeting like that I have heard in every neighborhood in which I am listening. My own home neighborhood, Audubon Circle in Fenway, the conversations that happen in the downtown and in other places. I do not believe that BTD is necessarily interested in the perspective that bike lanes are bad or that they frustrate access for a wide number of people into commercial areas, residential areas, and so on. So it's my own sort of read that we are on a march in Boston towards the elimination of more travel lanes for bike and other purposes. And I do think there's probably a fair amount of net positives there that will be realized in the aggregate. And there will be extreme frustration by people like me who drive a car to work, and those of you who live in a residential neighborhood here. And my message, because I don't work for the city, so my message is not sort of deal with it. But I do think that's what's coming, and I absolutely hear from our members, I hear from those who park downtown, I hear from the garages we have downtown. I hear from our partners in police and other places, frustration with these changes. I hear it, I understand it. I experience it as well. Making it harder to get to the neighborhood at the one time when we want the build back from the pandemic to take hold is at cross purposes with the goal that we want for the downtown, where workers can come back, where residents can enjoy the quality of life experience and so on. So I understand those pressures. I think despite them, I think we're on the path we're on. And I think that's likely.
Yeah, and I think we understand that. Just
sorry.
one last thing, I just want to make,
Yeah,
we're all for bike lanes. It's just a question of where they are.
right.
And so our position is that that's a conversation we should be involved with, not should there be them or shouldn't we be?
Sure.
Of course there should be them.
Right.
It's just a question of where they happen to be. Sorry, go ahead.
Josh, have you had discussions in the bid or been involved in discussions with the city yet? Because I know it's been raised here and New York is looking at it now. They're fighting up lawsuits about a congestion charge.
We have not been engaged in that conversation. I've read the same news articles others have in recent times. I think that's another trend we're heading towards. Paris, just because I read this article the other day, and again, it's Paris, identified a 5-mile zone within their downtown and eliminated 100% of through traffic in cars. Which is its own form of, sort of congestion pricing and that sort of total elimination. I think we're on that path. I don't know if we're 1 year or 5 years or 10 away from that path, but I think every tool that government can use, city, state in particular, to frustrate vehicle traffic, I think is going to become a long-term trend. That said, I really hope we're going to, to Mark's point, we have perhaps, I don't know this for sure, but perhaps the least functional public transportation system in the country right now in a major city. And so it does appear to me that we need to solve that challenge first before you're going to force people into mode shift, or you are just going to have the extreme frustration that we have today. If the T was more reliable, people would take it to work, right? And if it was as reliable as the, it's funny, walking over this meeting today, I enjoyed hearing the people talking about, oh, why is it I'm always running for the boat, right? But I gotta tell you, that's about the most reliable public transportation we've got. If the T ran like that, and to some degree, the commuter rail is the closest to running like that. The commuter rail has had about as good a bounce back as any public transportation in the country. They're riding over 80% of pre-pandemic. I don't know any other city that's experiencing that right now. But the T, the subway, is nowhere near. And we all, I think, deserve, government leaders that are going to fix that problem first.
I think the difference between our model and the French model is the French have been doing this for years, but they've got a multi-generational history of congestion charges. So they introduced something new and everyone, So I think, it's not, for years they ran on a basis of alternate number plates. So whatever the last number was in your registration plate determined which day you could drive into the city and things like that. So it's not new to them.
I'm not here to defend it because I don't work for the city and it's not my policy. I'm giving voice to my sort of understanding. It's like our organization is part of an international group called the International Downtown Association. I'm on calls all the time with the me in San Francisco and the me in Dallas and the me in Chicago, and believe it or not, everybody there is really angry about bike lanes right now, right? And so this is a trend, and to the captain's earlier point, right? It absolutely is frustrating people. It absolutely is making aspects of life more difficult today. I think that's part of the design, good, bad, or otherwise.
Actually, clearly stated, it doesn't care if we have restraint.
Right, and I think in every neighborhood I've seen it, it
doesn't have to be that.
I think, right, there's certainly a needed balance and a transition, right? If you're going to transition to this model, I think you have to be more thoughtful in terms of the rollout and in terms certainly of the public transportation functionality. And that's one that hurts us bad a bit, right? At a time when we're trying to incentivize workers back downtown, I would argue that housing affordability and mobility, especially the public transit system, are the two pieces that our organization can't address quite as well as a small nonprofit, but are absolutely destructive to trying to get people back here. And a group out of Philadelphia, our peer in Philadelphia, did a survey of 26 cities, Boston being one of them, on how well people were coming back to the office. And the single factor that mattered the most was proximity to your office. How close do you live? And we're in a region with such an extreme housing crunch that increasingly the people that you want and need working downtown can't afford to live 2, 3, 5, 10, 12 miles away and keep moving further. And then when they can't get in on public transportation, it's just, I would sit on my couch too and look at my dog yawn and work off my laptop and not support the small businesses that populate downtown.
Well, I would like to think that all the good things that you're doing with the downtown bid are in our collective interest as immediate neighbors also. And that we can work together on the things of common interest. And, you know, I don't doubt your, and I love the way you put it, as a trend that's happening elsewhere, and I believe that that's the case. I don't think that we have to do this without a good conversation about the best way to do it.
Certainly.
And that's what we've been lacking. And that's really the complaint that we have been hearing everywhere. It's not about, you know, should there be bike lanes or not? It's about whether or not the communities are engaged in the conversation about it.
Right.
Because if we know that it's ultimately in our collective interest, you know, presumably people will be in favor. But if it's, you know, if you're said, if it's all forced upon you, that it's not. Not good. Right. Anyway, questions?
A couple of questions. Two questions, actually. One is, I fondly remember Rosemary Sisson, who I believe was the first.
Or the only before.
Right. And when did it start? 'Cause I'm trying to remember.
Like 20, I always hear different dates, but roughly 2011. We're about 12 years old, maybe 13.
I mean, she was one. And I'm so impressed with the presentation. And what I see, when I take a walk up Uptown, I call it Uptown. Because I quite bad at work. Very impressive and grateful to you for all the great work you're doing. What is the relationship between Downtown Bid and Downtown Neighborhood Association? We were very pleased to sort of co-sponsor the at-large candidates one back in the fall. And I kind of pay attention to what their topics are and look for the, as Mark said, areas of common interest. What is the interplay between your organization and that?
Yeah, if you were distilling it into a single sentence, I think you'd suggest that we are a business group and they are a residents group. That's probably an oversimplification because since our founding, we've had board representation from residents. When I'm thinking about what retail works downtown, I think residents first, and I think of you all as well. I think the extended family of residents that might walk into the neighborhood or descend an office building or a residential building and dine at a restaurant, or, you know, one of my favorite new businesses that just opened is Flourish and Foundry, a furniture home goods store that is so beautiful. It's over by Government Center, started by 2 recent design school grads. That's the energy that I think we want downtown right now, something you can't get somewhere else or on Amazon. We thank you. You know, we're certainly looking for sort of a different energy in it, and you know, I think we very much are thinking about what would motivate residents to spend time and mind share within the neighborhood. And so we are, you know, that said, we are a construct and membership organization by the commercial property owners of downtown. Frankly, I don't think I care for this job if that's the only lens that I looked at for. So I think we very much try to represent the small businesses that are in the neighborhood as tenants of those owners, or the residents in the neighborhood, or those that shop there, or those that dine there, and so on. I mean, I grew up, everyone has their sort of generational downtown story. Like, I grew up in Connecticut, but like to a mother who lived in Boston in the North End in her 20s, worked at the Kennedy Federal Building, got her cup of coffee at the steaming kettle, shopped at Jordan Marsh on the lunch hour. And then I grew up going to Filene's basement, and every suit I bought as a kid was on the discount route from the basement, and we'd go to Marley, right? Like, so we all have our sort of generational downtown thing, and I want to hope that we're catalyzing this generation's, not just focused on what the commercial property is, right? And so I think our organization very effectively represents both groups. The newly formed, yeah.
I have one
Yeah.
more question, and I want to make sure others have the opportunity. But first of all, I just want to say, I hope I never encountered you in corporate. You're very. I'm sure you're.
I'm not doing any law these days, so we're in a courtroom, we did something wrong, so.
But do you recommend I haven't been to it, the Wonder Museum?
It's
The,
neat.
Yeah,
It's neat. I will flag that if you have sensitivity to stimulation, skip it. I brought a group through yesterday, actually a small business that is looking to open, adjacent to the Wonder Museum with a complementary business. They do escape rooms. And so I brought the 5 leaders of the group through to see Wonder because it's such a compatible audience. But one of them had sensory, challenges, and it was hard for it. And so I would say if you're susceptible to that, do it. But if you've got kids, grandkids, or you just like a different kind of experience, it's a very fun thing. And it is so crazy successful right now. They are selling 2,000 tickets a day. Something probably approaching 30 or 40,000 a month.
it's a for-profit
Company out of Chicago. This is their first East Coast location. For those that don't know, it is essentially an interactive museum with using sort of light and technology. So you go in and you put your hand against a wall and it color changes. My favorite part is there's an AI, an artificial intelligence computer where you can type in a phrase and then all the picture frames on the wall will populate with some interpretation of what you said. So I was there yesterday, I typed in, what does downtown Boston look like in 2099? And they recognizably, with things you'd recognize, like the Custom House Tower, did a stylized digital view of what downtown would look like 50 years. It was 70, it's a very cool place. 20, 30 bucks. It's also, they have a liquor license and a capacity that allows people before and after theater shows, for example, if you're looking for somewhere different to get a glass of wine. It's called the Wonder Museum.
Whereabouts?
It is in Lafayette City Center, directly across the street from the Godfrey Hotel. At the Mountain Temple Place for the restaurant, kind of the restaurant row in downtown.
I have seen so many ads, I mean, they thought that.
They're saturated.
They're ads saturated.
Yes.
On my whole Instagram feed, I see them all.
Yes, so we're finding a lot of success with that right now. We think it will catalyze other good business around them. Including what's behind them that we're trying to get leased right now is a 7,700 square foot windowless room that is interior in that building and behind the Wonder Museum. Who would ever want it? And then we found the escape room group. And so they don't need windows. And so trying to get them excited about having Wonder as their partner, but that's part of what the bid's able to do. So as a point of difference from a traditional kind of residence group, which the Downtown Neighborhood Association has sort of emerged as 2 residential groups, you know, kind of merging together. I think they do the more traditional role of representing, solely the residential people.
Thank you.
Anybody on Zoom wants to ask Michael a question? Or make a comment?
I'll ask, how much is the T ridership down from, say, before the pandemic?
I don't even know if they've gotten back past half.
Really?
I mean, the commuter rail's at its best, probably a little over 80% right now. I think the subway is like 50% at best, and I'm not even sure it's that. Unfortunately for our partners in police around the city, like the Red Line had its best day ever last Sunday. With a lot of people wearing green, and headed towards South Boston, but other than like blips on the radar like that, it's way off. Continues to be way off.
I will tell you that the commuter roads from the South Shore are doing well, and I appreciate your remarks, but the loyalty, enthusiasm of the folks who take the commuter boats right here from Rose Wharf to Longwood, they're still taking the ferry, not quite in the numbers of 2018, 2019, but it has come back strong, much stronger than, and part of it is reliable. They're reliable. Yes, and it's just a nice way.
That's good to hear. I gotta take it one of these days. I don't know what I do in hand, but I gotta.
We can stick around in here.
Thank you very much.
Very nice, very much.
Appreciate that. Great to see you again. You as well,
I
everybody.
remember the Greenway, that was.
It's always a part of my heart, Greenway, so I'm delighted to be right up against it.
We're gonna hear now from Jonathan Drapinski.
That's me.
Excellent. Foster Harbor City Cruises, and shall I put that on?
Yeah. Should be it's the only thing up there.
Um,
You need to step out, Matthew, while Jonathan goes.
If you would like me to.
Want to join the party.
While you're setting that up, Mark, may I just take a moment to introduce Jonathan?
Please do.
I purposefully invited Jonathan to do this presentation because I know you're all tired of hearing me go on about things. And he is better looking than I am, and he is a gem of a guy, and has been with our company now for
I think it's about 6 years, since 2018.
and Jonathan is a terrific success story in our company. He started as a kid. He's no longer a kid, I would say, a young man, strapping young man, in fact. And but he started as I think, as a dispatcher in our water taxi division, and then moved over into ticket sales in Long Wharf, our ticket sales location at Long Wharf, and now works in group sales on excursions, ferries, and dining as well. So Jonathan's able to give you a very good overview and really specializes in group sales and events, group tickets for whale watches. But he's a terrific young man. I'm really happy.
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, me and Matthew actually, Matthew's the reason why I've been able to move up the ranks over the years. He saw something in me when I was just answering the phone. I'm fresh out of college, and the rest is history.
Clicking on this right here. Right.
No, that's just,
Oh.
just the speaker. I'll advance it.
Yeah, so many of you already know us. We are right outside. You might see our boats every morning. Hopefully you've been on our boats in some fashion. If not, talk to Matthew or I, and we can make that happen, whether it's to see some whales or do a dining event. We do such a variety of options, and the biggest thing about us, what we do is just helping make the harbor and getting on boats accessible to everyone. You know, it is a luxury, but it's a fun privilege to get to do that. And we make it accessible to everyone from schools, student groups, community groups, retirement parties, anniversaries, you name it, we do it, weddings. So this is actually right outside here at Rose Wharf. These are our dining vessels. Typically, we have two boats that are housed out here. Our Odyssey, which is our premier dining vessel, in the Boston Elite, which is pretty much like a miniature yacht. If you want to do a nice private event on that. As you can see, and then in addition to that, we have the Spirit of Boston, which is home over at the World Trade Center dock, and we have the Seaport Elite as well. So we do such a variety of events, everything from, like I mentioned, weddings to anniversaries. If you're on the Odyssey, it's a plated meal. It's 3-course meal, and we have multiple decks. Pretty much that boat. And if you want to actually go to the next slide. That boat actually fits 530 people on that boat. If you want to do a nice intimate event on the Odyssey, we do have the Admiral's Lounge. It fits 40 people. That's a really good option if you're looking to do something maybe like a post-work event or a birthday celebration. Each deck has a really lovely bar. There's also a really nice outdoor deck as well with lawn seating. And then the Boston Elite is very intimate, but so adorable. We do a lot of weddings on that. That fits about 150 people. And you can really customize that. There's no set schedule with the Boston Elite. It's really something that we make catered to you. The Odyssey is on a set schedule. So whether you want to just go out for dinner for two, do a little party, you know, you can rent out the Odyssey if you really want to. Again, that is for 530 people, so it is a lot of people, but we definitely can do it. And over in the Seaport, we have the two boats I mentioned, the Spirit of Boston, which is fully refurbished. It just came back from a full overhaul. It just came back last month. And then we also have the Seaport Elite as well over there. The Spirit of Boston fits 600 people, and it's more of a buffet on that, and then the Seaport Elite fits 150 people. I'll mention it again later, but if you do want a taste of our dining experiences, if you're thinking about perhaps planning an event in the future, we are going to be having a showcase on the recently renovated Spirit of Boston on April 24th. Happy to pass these out if anyone's interested. Essentially, the big caveat is you have to let me know. I add you to the guest list if you want to come. Here you are. And anyone on the call, I'm happy to send this to you as well. If you want to pass it out over there. Okay, and then so over at Long Wharf, which is a solid 5-minute walk from over here, we have a variety of different options within our excursion division. For years, I was out there managing our guest services team. I was actually managing our ticket booths down there. So it's very fun to me what we do at Long Wharf. One of our most tried and true experiences, especially if you have someone new to the city of Boston, perhaps maybe exploring for the first time, is our 1-hour historic harbor cruise. It leaves pretty much every other hour. It's 60 minutes on the harbor. We have a really great narration team. If you're familiar with David Coffin, who is a really fantastic sea shanty, thespian, yeah, jack of all trades. He has really done a great job of making this a fun and informative narration. It's not just like going into a history class. You really get the fun pop culture and the jokes of Boston and what we know to love of the city. So that's our 1-hour historic harbor cruise. Then we have a 90-minute sunset version of that in the summer. That starts on May 5th. Pretty much the same concept of the other historic harbor cruise. It's just a little longer in duration. And the big feature of that is you see the cannon fire of the USS Constitution at sunset. And then we have our Alive After 5 Sights and Sips. So it's a 90-minute sunset cruise. So if you don't want to hear the history of Boston from David Coffin and his team, but you just want to have a cocktail on the water, perhaps you don't want to indulge in dinner, you just want to be on a boat for 90 minutes, we do have an Alive After 5 cocktail cruise that will be starting up in June. And that's a really great experience it's all ages, so it's not a booze cruise, for lack of a better word. It is something a mom and dad could go on with their baby or their child if they really wanted to. Even, college kids could do it. Anyone can do it. And it's 90 minutes. There's a full premium bar on board. There's a DJ. There'll be lawn games on the first deck. And the reason why we have this option is really to make it so there's a variety of things. We love our dining boats, but it is a certain price point to do those experiences. And so across the country, we've created this product really just to make it so, someone on a budget can get on the harbor and, still have a team outing or a family outing and not be priced out because of a meal per se. And so my big mission with my sales endeavors is making it so, just because it might be a luxury and a pricier thing, is working with people and their budgets. Our general managers, Kelly Yell and Bob Lawler, do a great job of really making it, working with people with where they're at. We don't want to just say no. So if anything, we want to let you have at least try it once. So there's always that too. So you can move on to within our excursions as well. Over at Long Wharf, we have our whale watch. We partner with the New England Aquarium, and we are starting May 16th in conservation efforts to protect the critically endangered right whales as they migrate across. So with some speed restrictions, we start May 16th. And this is such a fantastic experience. Has anyone already done this already? Have you ever been on a whale watch? Sure. Awesome. So it's always great. And if you want to do it again, just let us know. We'll get you back on the water. It's
call. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, we'll take care of you. It's a 4-hour experience. So it is I always have to tell my clients it is a commitment. You have to schedule your day accordingly. But it's fantastic. We have naturalists from the New England Aquarium on board who are such experts in this field. And I like to think of it as a deep sea safari. You never know what you're going to see out there. Everything from humpback whales, right whales, minke whales. Last year I went on a whale watch. I saw 50 Atlantic dolphins just, marching across the horizon. We sometimes see sharks even. We've seen sea turtles, we've seen seals. So that starts in May, and that's really the start of our season. In addition to that, you've probably all have seen this boat. It's the big red boat of the harbor. Is the Codzilla. It's our speedboat ride, and it's such a family-friendly experience. I've have corporate groups booking this out just to get out of the office, stop looking at a screen for a couple hours. It's only 45 minutes, so it's not as much of a commitment as a whale watch, but it is a thrill. You do get a little wet. We give out ponchos to this experience. David Coffin, who we mentioned earlier, does a fantastic job having a really fun narration on board. It has a little bit of history, but it's a lot of comedy. But the best thing is you get wet. You get Matthew has a great phrase he's coined, the Codzilla high. After you have such an adrenaline rush of going 40 miles per hour around the harbor. And that starts Memorial Day weekend. And in place, in our conservation efforts to protect the right whales, in lieu of the whale watch in March and April, or April and early May rather, we have a lighthouse cruise starting up very, very soon. And it's a 2-hour experience. And this is really great because it allows you to get a really close-up look of Boston's 2 iconic lighthouses and some others as well. Boston Light, which is the oldest lighthouse in America. It's pretty much your picturesque moment. You're gonna go right up to that, get some nice postcard photos of the lighthouse. And then also Graves Light, which is known for more of a darker history in the Boston Harbor. It's home to many shipwrecks back in the years. And so that's why there is the Graves Light as we know it. Yeah. And so it has a darker, one is picture perfect, pretty Boston. The other one has a little bit more of a darker side to it, but they're both so interesting. And that's gonna be starting up next weekend.
April 6th.
Yeah, so it's
Launches, so that's coming up very soon, and I would just add that we had this dilemma, business dilemma, when we made the decision in collaboration with the aquarium to not start operating until, we used to start the whale watches in March 18, March 20 thereabouts, but given the endangered condition of right whales, we agreed to start later. So we have those 2 months or so that, what could we do? Well, we tried something last year called, what we would call the Eco Venture. It was a tour that sort of had an ecological theme to it. But what we discovered from that experience is what people really got lit up about was getting up close to the lighthouse.
Sure.
And I've done some research over the winter, and there are so many lighthouse enthusiasts out there. There are so many Facebook groups just about lighthouses. They're just lighthouse groupies, I call them. And so this is really going to dwell on the lighthouses as iconic parts of the New England landscape and Boston area, and the history. And we will really take our time. It's some incredible photo opportunities.
Yes.
I mean, it's really, we're excited about it, and doing some outreach to, lighthouse themed groups, but it will only be running for a limited amount of time, April 6th, right up until whale watch starts, on May 16th. So please do come and enjoy it if you're inclined.
Yeah, and if you haven't been on any of these experiences, especially once you're out in the outer harbor, it's such a different world out there. Especially when you're out, it is crazy to me every time when you're out there, because 1 minute you're downtown Boston here in the hustle and bustle, and all of a sudden you're in this very untapped area. And all of our experiences, whether it's a whale watch, a lighthouse cruise, or some of these other ferries I'm about to mention, gets you out there in some fashion, whether it's commuting out to Hingham or down to Provincetown. You get to see a lot of these really, not something that not everyone always sees every day.
Sarah, want to know what's the April 24th event?
Oh, yes. So on April 24th, I am extending an invite to everyone here to our April showcase aboard the Spirit of Boston, the recently renovated Spirit of Boston. And this is a really great event to really see how we can host your events in the future. It's going to be a dockside event, so it won't be cruising that night, but it'll be from 5 to 8. We'll have complimentary food, complimentary drinks, and our whole sales team will be there, and our events team will be there as well to answer any questions. It's a great option for someone that's looking to see what we can do for you.
Which dock?
Over at the World Trade Center dock, which is kind of a little bit different than what it's been. The construction over there has improved significantly. If you haven't seen it, in about a year, it's gonna be a whole different world over there. But yeah, that's April 24th from 5 to 8. If anyone is interested, I'm happy to send you this flyer if you want to email everyone.
Sarah, we'll send it to you, Sarah.
Yeah, pretty much if you're interested, I'll just need to know and I'll add you to the guest list.
Okay, let's see.
You can go to the next one.
Tim?
Okay, yeah, in that same breath is we do destination ferries. So one of my favorite places, Provincetown, the tip of Cape Cod. Has everyone been to P-Town or on our ferry? Yeah, and It's such a good time. If you've been on board, you probably know our really good friend Donald O'Sullivan, our onboard concierge. And he is your guide to P-Town. If you've never been to P-Town, if you're just going down for the day trip, he has a lot of great recommendations and can connect you to different activities if you're down there. And we really cater to everyone with our Provincetown Ferry. Whether you're doing a day trip, which we have a really nice schedule that allows that. We leave at 9 AM in the morning, get you there by 10:30. Then you have all day until 5:30 to enjoy Provincetown. Yeah, Matthew's done a great job of extending our schedule over the past couple of years. So that's our day trip spine schedule, but we also have a really great weekender vacationer schedule too that's catered to staying even longer. We on Thursdays through Sundays, right? We have a late night trip in the height of season that will be leaving at 9 PM.
From Boston, 7 PM from Boston
Mhm.
and 9 PM from
P-Town.
P-Town, on Thursday through Sunday during peak season.
Mhm.
July.
You know now is better than Friday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have
You never get
to,
that.
yeah. That type of traffic can last, 3 to 4 hours in the height of summer. Whereas you can be on our boat for 90 minutes,
Be right here.
yeah,
Yeah.
leave right here next door. We have a full bar on board. You can have a nice couple of cocktails rather than driving. Yeah, so if you want to do it again, let us know.
We've been to P-Town.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so that's, that will be starting, May 16th. May 16th is the magic number, as you can see. And so we also have our Salem Ferry, which it starts in May as well. It goes all the way into Halloween. Really popular during October, of course, and the city of Salem, the mayor of Salem highly recommends folks utilize us to beat all this traffic, because they too have a really bad issue of parking in October. That only takes 15 minutes to get up from Boston to Salem via our boat. And then we work with the Boston Harbor Islands, Boston Harbor Now, Friends of the Harbor Islands. And we go to 3 different islands. We go to George's Island, Spectacle Island, and Paddocks Island. This all kicks off Memorial Day weekend. Matthew does a great job working with BHN. We do a lot of different free access days and discount days for them. If there's any cruise that we really work with a variety of folks is our Boston Harbor Islands ferry. Is we actually have library codes. If you go to your local library to get a buy one, get one free, we do a lot of free access days for field trips that, schools that might not have the money to spend on some of these other options. But it's such another world out there. You get really good views of the lighthouses, like we mentioned, but you're in some untapped areas. George's Island's like a time capsule. You have Fort Warren out there. You're pretty much walking back into the Civil War when you're out at George's Island. Spectacle Island has changed significantly over the years and really showcases how much Boston Harbor has changed over the years. You might have known it used to be a trash dump, essentially. And they, with a lot of cleaning and landfill and cleaning of the harbor, it's now a recreational island. Some of the best hiking in the area you can do on Spectacle Island. There's a public beach there now as well. And then from Hingham to Paddocks Island, from Hingham, we go down to Paddocks Island, which is more of a camping island. And again, another natural beauty of the Boston Harbor as well.
I just want to add one pro tip. Although the official opening of Harbor Islands is Memorial Day weekend, there is a free ferry weekend, the prior weekend, the 18th and 19th. On the 18th, God willing, both islands will be open, Spectacle and George's. And then on Sunday, the 19th, George's will be open both days. And this is something that Boston Harbor Now often does to kick off the season. People will start lining up for tickets at 7 o'clock in the morning. Because they wind all the way around Atlantic Avenue. But it's very, very popular. It's a nice way to kick off the season. Hopefully, knocking on wood, we will have better weather.
Better weather than last year. Yeah. And then we do like to connect people, to get you where you need to in fun ways to beat the city traffic. We have a great MBTA ferry program, and many of you might have already been on this. We go down to Hingham and Hull, to the South Shore. We go right across the harbor to Charlestown from Long Wharf, also to East Boston. That's been extended down to Lynn as well. But one thing I focus on within my role is I help a lot of groups with really specialized water transport needs. So if you have a group of 20 or more and you need to go from one waterfront to another, you can call me. We've done everything from dropping folks off at the JFK Library for big events down there. Doing airport pickups, over to the seaport. Pretty much anything you need, we can customize if you're looking to do a group experience. Otherwise, we have a lot of set schedules that can just get you from point A to point B across the harbor as well. And we just hope to welcome you aboard this summer. I know today's weather's been really cold, but it's always exciting to talk about the cruise season ahead because before we know, we're all gonna be back on these boats and looking for something fun to do. Thank you for having me.
That's terrific. What a great, thing. What a great presentation. And, I know you guys did a lot of stuff, but I didn't know last thing.
Yeah, we do a lot.
A lot going on,
Yeah.
Steve.
Um,
Any questions from
Yeah, any
folks on
questions
Zoom or?
on Zoom, anybody? No, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll give you guys my card too, so if you are interested in the showcase, all you have to do is just email me, okay? And I'll add you to the guest list.
Okay. Suzanne has on our,
How to go.
yeah. Suzanne, has on our agenda, we talked about State Street enough, I think. Are there any new members we need to announce? Not quite yet, okay, that's fine. We've been making great progress with the climate resilience task force. And we're about to move into a new phase where we're going to do a strategic plan for the future on that. We're still getting great traction, and we came out with, if everybody saw the article that Steve Adams wrote, was in Banker Tradesman, we sent it around, hopefully they're reading about this new map that we have about the flooding, which was, I think, pretty daunting. But we're going to continue to work on that and see where that takes us. There is a plan that the BPDA is doing for Long Wharf, which will be coordinated.
May I back up?
Please.
There are two new members I want to acknowledge and welcome. One of them I know is here, I'm not sure of the other, but Bobby Rudolph is on the call. And Bobby, I'd love for you to say hello. Bobby has a law firm, and his family owns a building on State Street and has been very involved in the discussions around State Street, and is now officially a member. So welcome, Bobby. It's great to have you come on board as a member of the WDC. Yeah.
Thanks so much, and good evening, everyone. Bobby Rudolph. I'm excited to become an official member. It's been great working with everyone on the State Street project. As Matthew said, I'm an attorney at Rudolph Friedman. Our office is on State Street. I've lived for the last 15 years in the downtown crossing area, about 10 of those at Tremont on the Common. And my wife and I and our daughter still live in the downtown crossing area. And my family is also in the real estate business, and I help manage our building on State Street, which is across from where Brooks Brothers used to be located on the corner of State and Merchants Row. We also own a unit at the Rose Wharf residences. So I'm happy to be involved, and I hope to be at the next meeting in person.
Okay. And Bobby's daughter is a relatively new arrival to the household, I think, right, Bobby?
She's 10 weeks today.
Yeah, goodness. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to have you join.
Much appreciated.
And I also want to acknowledge the Boston Public Market has come on board as a member. And since we visited with them some time ago, I have been stopping in there more often because I honestly didn't realize how much great stuff there is in there, whether it's the apple cider donuts or the corned beef sandwich or my goodness, and there's all kinds of artistic things going on there. They have terrific programming. They have all kinds of events going on.
And they're going to do a thing for us.
Yes, indeed. We will be having, we'll be lining up an event at the Boston Public Market. So I don't think they're on the call tonight, but they have officially joined, and we will be seeing them
attend. So we're excited to have them become official members also.
Yeah, great. So we are going to close the regular part of the meeting and go into executive session for the members to vote on a leadership that we should vote on before. Any questions before we move along?
Just thank you for having me.
Great, it was wonderful to have you. Flory, do stay on, please. We need your, Flory is taking, does a great job taking notes for us.
Yes.
I used.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to help you.
Great, thanks, Flory.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're a member, so you know the vote.
Tim's on as well.
Thanks, Mark.
Oh, okay, thanks, great to see you guys.
See you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
See you later, John.
Thank you for coming in person.
Yes, oh, just got
Oh, did you just?
Jess,
Why?
we're not even home to,
How many
Why?
seats are on Coachella?
because Bob's brother had a birthday.
Much bigger than you think it is.
Yeah.
80th birthday.
Fine.
So we came back early.
You brought them, came to the.
No, no, I like where I go.
I know you do. I hope you get there someday.
Me too. And oh, I have one special request.
Yes, ma'am.
Susan, you said she sends emails to Bob, but she doesn't to me.
I'll make sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, great.
so it'd be great, so
Thank you.
thanks, Mark.
Um.
Am I supposed to stay on for this part now? All right.
And I'm going to, let's see. So Captain Martin, you can sign off, and who's Timothy?
Oh, that's Tim Carr. So
Oh,
he's
Tim, you can say.
From Old Town.
Yeah, I just told him he can log off if he wants. We don't both need to be here for this bit.
Okay.
All right,
So-
just vote that I told you to.
Yeah, thanks. So this is just a quick vote. We're supposed to vote in January for the officers. We voted for John Larrabee for a temporary position as the treasurer, and we voted for Suzanne Lavoy as clerk. We failed to vote for Matthew as vice president and me as president. I got all flustered. I'm sorry. So what I would ask for is a vote that Flory can record, thank you, for Suzanne Lavoy as clerk, for John, by the way, she wants out of the job, so we need to vote. For John Larrabee as treasurer, for Matthew Murphy as vice president, and for Mark Margulies as president. Until next January, when we have to do this whole thing.
Propose or propose?
second.
All in favor?
All opposed? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Flory, I think you're done. Much appreciated, and we're going to conclude the meeting.
Great, thanks for coming, everybody. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Flory.